Hello, everybody. How's it going? Sorry, I'm a few minutes behind. If you come and grab an autograph from me, you'll see I talk a lot. But yeah, a great attribute to have in the business I'm in. How's everyone doing today? You guys been having a great convention? Awesome. Well, we'll spend the majority of this time just hanging out, talking about whatever you guys want to talk about. Oh, thank you so much. I run on coffee. Big fan of coffee. Any coffee drinkers out there? Awesome. Nice. Yeah, I always seek out like interesting coffee spots or interesting coffee combinations. So this morning I had an espresso mule. Has anyone had one of those? No? Okay, so here's what they do. They take a ginger beer and then they just dump espresso in it. Yeah, it's great. So I got a little bit of energy and now I'll just crack another coffee and I'll be good to go. I'll just kind of start this off by telling you guys a few things that you might know me from. So you might know me as Inosuke and Demon Slayer. Kirito and Sword Art Online. Has anyone seen SAO Progressive? Oh my gosh, it was so good. Who's seen Sword Art Online? Awesome, almost everybody. So, SAO Progressive takes us back to Aincrad, but gives you the perspective of Asuna. So you get Asuna's view kind of leading up to the game, and then her perspective as she plays the game for the first time. So you get that like beginning of the show feel, but from her view. And it, like when I saw it, and I'm very familiar with the story, not only from working on the show and watching the show subtitled, seeing Matsuoka-san's version of Kirito, and working on the audiobooks. I don't know if you guys know, but I was the narrator of the audiobook in the light novel, and we've done actually a few of them now, which is so cool to relive the story in that way. So I'm very familiar with that Aincrad art, and Progressive felt like I was watching a new show. Like it felt familiar but new, which I thought it was so creative the way they went back and did it, and it's just beautiful. And Cherami's performance as Asuna blew my mind. She's incredible in this film. I mean, has anyone met Cherami before? Last time I was at YamaCon, Cherami was here with me, and if you get the opportunity to meet her, I highly recommend it. Just an amazing person, and she's so talented, and I was literally texting her as I was watching the movie, like, this is so good. I was just blown away by her performance. So, highly recommend you check out Progressive, and highly recommend you see it in the theater if you can. You just feel the battle and like all the little nuances of the audio really shine through. I thought it was just so fun. Definitely check out Progressive if you haven't had that chance. You guys might also know me as Eren Yeager in Attack on Titan. And I mentioned this yesterday on the panel, the Demon Slayer panel, but I don't know what's about to happen in the show. Not joking, like, I haven't read the manga, I've somehow avoided spoilers, and I'm so close at this point, like, I don't want to look ahead. My method of recording is to kind of go in blind and immerse myself in the show, and whatever comes out, comes out. I really love working on Attack on Titan. Mike McFarland, who's here this weekend, is the director of the show. And actually, I met Mike and became friends with him because of Attack on Titan. So I was a fan of the show as it was coming out in Japan. There were about 6 episodes out of the show when I started watching it. And I thought, I just wanted to be part of it. I would have been happy being guy who gets stepped on by Titan. That would have been cool with me. And I was actually really just lucky to get the audition. Because I had never met Mike, I'd never worked for Funimation. Funimation is based in Dallas, and I grew up from Los Angeles. So I was at a convention, and I was talking to a friend of mine. His name is Patrick Seitz, if you know him. Amazing director and actor, and I was telling him how much I loved the show, and he received the audition. He's worked for Funimation a bunch, and he said to Mike, hey, my buddy Bryce would love to read for you if that's all right. And Mike's like, yeah, sure, have him submit. So I got the audition, and I read for Aaron, Levi, and Armin. And I could barely talk after the audition. I really gave it everything I could. In fact, at the time, I had a little closet booth that was my recording space, and I went out and bought more soundproofing because I didn't want my neighbors to call the cops on me. I guess whatever came through in that audition resonated with Mike to the point where I got a call from him about 2 weeks after, and he's like, hey Bryce, this is Mike McFarland from Funimation. I heard your auditions, and I love what I heard. I wanted to know if you're interested in playing Eren Yeager in Attack on Titan. Does that sound like something that you're interested in? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Mike. I can't wait to work with you. Like, yes! Oh my God! Just fanboyed and screamed. Like, I was so excited for the opportunity to just not only be in the show but to play Eren. So for season 1, what I did, and Mike he's just such a great guy. He welcomed me to stay with him. So I crashed at Mike's house. We would drive into the studio every day before recording. Mike, if you talk to him, he likes metal music. So it'd be like 30 minutes of like, and then like 8 hours of Eren. I just felt like a metal singer, and just had such a great experience working with him. Another thing about me, I grew up watching shows like Pokemon and Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z. I used to love to go to karate and just go Super Saiyan, just little kid in the background screaming. So I was in the booth being directed by Master Roshi. Like my mind was blown working with him. And he's just such a talented actor and director. Highly recommend if you guys get a chance to go meet Mike out there. Definitely take it. Such a great guy. Here's the thing about audio equipment.
Is there a technical person for me?
Here's the thing about audio equipment. They never let the actors touch the microphone. We have an engineer that comes in and like sets the mic and does all that, and that's why. I will definitely break the equipment if I'm allowed to touch it, so sorry about that. It's probably gonna happen again. Anyways, yeah, amazing experience working on Attack on Titan, and who's read all of the manga? I'll reiterate, don't say anything, don't tell me what happens, no spoilers. Who's all the way caught up on the anime? Awesome. Who's never seen the show before? And I'll just remind you guys who have no idea what I'm talking about. Attack on Titan is like this lighthearted comedy. Like it's really funny. So yeah, a day that you just need a chuckle, or you're looking for like a slice of life type of show, you should start it. And you'll have a great time. So yeah, season 4 of the show. And I'll try not to spoil this. The character's very different. The first 3 seasons, I would describe all of my performance as Eren having this anger in every single line. And season 4, that anger is just buried under this coldness. So to play a character for 6, 7 years and then totally reinvent that character was so interesting and so fun, and I loved what Mike and I came up with. It was really, a collaboration between us to find where that character should sit and find that voice. And yeah, I'm so happy with the way it came together and the way it sounds, and so excited to go back and record more. I get this question a lot before I kind of open it up to you guys. Aaron is very different from you. I don't know if you guys can tell when I'm out there wearing a mask, but I'm always smiling at these things. I love meeting people at conventions. I love this experience and this process, so I'm always smiling. And Aaron is just so different from me. So people ask, like, where do you find that anger? And really, I attribute it, and one thing that I've used a lot is my dog, who unfortunately recently passed, but it's just such a great memory of her. So she was a Maltese poodle, a little white fluff ball, and really just loved to eat everything. And I had this bag of chips that I was really looking forward to eating, and that poodle, she ate my chips! And that's where I find the anger for Aaron Yeager. So yeah, like as a voice actor, you have to tap into things outside of the environment because you're just in this soundproof space, and you got to find those things in your real life that you can kind of relate to your characters with. So I use that kind of stuff all the time when I'm in the booth. So today we don't have a microphone, so what we'll do is I'll just open it up to you guys. You can ask questions, we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, and I'll just kind of bounce around the room and pick some folks. So if you have something you want to ask me, just raise your hand and I'll do the best I can to call on as many people as possible. So yeah, don't be shy if you guys have any questions. Yeah, right over here. I do play Adrian in Miraculous Ladybug, and happy to talk about Miraculous. Yeah. So the question was, what is it like working on a show that records out of order? Because the release of the series happens out of order. It's very interesting and kind of strange sometimes. So one thing you guys might not know about voice actors who work on specifically dubbing shows, meaning like they're first released in another language, like all of anime, or in this case, Miraculous Ladybug is released in French before we dub it into English. So when you work on those types of shows, you do not receive scripts ahead of time. You don't meet the other actors or do any sort of table read with the other actors. So you're working by yourself in a soundproof room without knowing what's going to happen in the episode, where the episode is going, or who you're talking to. And you really rely on your director to navigate you through the show to make sure that you're performing the right way, and they're the ones that kind of orchestrate all the different actors to make it sound like they're talking to each other. So in the case of Miraculous Ladybug, even Ezra, the director, doesn't get the episodes in order. He has no idea what's happening. So you run into these cases sometimes where like a character will show up and you're like, who is that? So there was this episode of Miraculous Ladybug, and now we understand who this character is. But Adrian was throwing this party, and he was inviting all these different characters from the show into the party. And there's this banana, literally a banana, that swings across the screen, And he says something like, "Get peachy," or something like that. And we're just like, what the heck was that? And we went back and played it again, and the banana goes, "Get peachy," and flies across the street. We're like, what? And then, like, they played it again, and I found it so funny and so random. We had no idea what this character was about, who he was. Like, we had no introduction to it, just him swinging across the screen. And, like, I couldn't deliver my line. Like, I was laughing so hard, and I'm like, this is my favorite character in the show. So, like, and there's another episode where Adrian wears the banana suit. Banana Noir. Which I was like, please let me voice the banana at some point, please. So like, it's so interesting and strange that like that happens and all you can do is the best you can. And sometimes you make a decision and you're like, oh, well, if I knew that was gonna happen, I probably would have done it this way. But too late, it's already out there, it's already released. All you can do is the best you can do. So yeah, it's challenging and funny and weird to record out of order, but that's what we got. So actually right now is one of the very interesting and unique times where I have seen something that's not out there in the world, and I can't tell you. Sorry, but I actually know a little snippet of something from the next season. It's really good. It's really good. I can't wait for you guys to see it. And I'm sure that we're gonna keep recording out of order, so it's like we'll get episode 5, and then episode 20, and episode 1, and episode 16, like it's just totally random. So I'm sure that's gonna keep happening. Yes? Yeah, I mean, and like I mentioned, like, you don't hang out with the other actors. In fact, the majority of the time I work on these shows, I don't meet the other actors until an experience like a convention. That's another thing I really love about these events. So, all of season 1 of Attack on Titan, I met people like Josh and Trina just kind of in passing. Because they're at the studio to work on other projects, and you pass like ships in the night and you're just like, hey, I'm Aaron, hey, I'm Mikasa, nice to meet you. And that's it, and you hope I hope I get along with this person and we can relate and talk when you're like matched up at conventions. And once you meet people, like another person, for example, I mentioned her earlier is Shermie. When we were working on Sword Art Online Season 1, I never met Shermie. And I think the first day I kind of had that experience with her was after we recorded those scenes in the cabin where our characters are falling in love with each other. So to me, I played those lines as real as possible, and Alex Von David, the director of Sword Art, wanted those scenes played out very real. So I had to connect Asuna with someone in my life that I would deliver those lines to. So my lines to Asuna as Kirito are me talking to my wife. So I played them very authentic and very real, and in those moments where Kirito is, wanting to save Asuna, or in those terrible, situations, like, that's played where my wife is Asuna. So, it comes through, hopefully comes through like I'm delivering those lines to her. But I never met Shermie. And I went in there and recorded those first, so I didn't hear the other side of those conversations. And I came out of those sessions and she was going in, and I'm just like, hey, I'm Bryce, I'm Kirito, hey, I'm Shermie, Asuna, nice to meet you, bye. And that's it. So it wasn't until a convention that like we got to know each other and hang out, and now Shermie has become very good friends with my wife, and they get to hang out more than I get to hang out with Shermie, which I'm jealous about, right? So yeah, after you get to know folks, that's when like you kind of have that rapport with them, and you can leave things called bonds, that are like bloopers left in the show that they'll play for them as the other actor is recording. So I've left bombs in some shows. I love doing that. Yeah, Attack on Titan, especially season 1, was just so serious and I was so focused. It was my first time working with the cast and the crew, so I didn't leave a ton of those, but I did have a situation, I'll call it, that I think is pretty funny, and I apologize if you've heard me tell this story, but I love it, so I'll tell it one more time. So I was saying, it was my first time out in Dallas, and Mike, if you guys want to know food recommendations in Dallas, Mike is a great person to ask. And hanging out with him, he was so great about showing me all these great places to eat. So we were recording season 1, and we get to this point where there's this pole that's gone through Aaron's shoulder, and he lets out this big, giant, nasty scream. And it was right around lunch, so Mike's like, hey, this is a good spot to kind of stop and go to lunch. He's like, have you tried this place called Mooyah Burger before? And do you guys have a Mooyah Burger in Tennessee? So there might be some, so Mooyah Burger, they make these big giant burgers, and they had sweet potato fries on the menu. I love sweet potato fries. So I asked Mike, do you like sweet potato fries? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'll get the big one. So things are a bit bigger in Texas. So the large sweet potato fries was a tray and a mountain of sweet potato fries and my burger. So I get these things, and I annihilate my whole burger and the entire mountain of sweet potato fries Mike and I destroy. So I get back to the booth and I'm just like, oh, Mooyah Burger. And that scream is first. So we get 3 beeps before we start our line. It goes beep, 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 and then you do your line. And this is what it sounded like after eating that mountain of sweet potato fries. Beep, beep, beep. Ah! And I look over, and Mike is just busting up, he's just dying of laughter. And he has to hit a button for me to hear him inside the booth. He hits the button, he goes, yeah, let's try that again. Beep, beep, beep. I couldn't physically get enough oxygen in my body to scream like Aaron Yeager because I was so full of sweet potato fries. So yeah, I always tell people, do not eat a mountain of sweet potato fries if you want to scream like Aaron Yeager. So yeah, that was good times. Very good times. Yeah, I'll jump over here. I see a couple on this side. Go 1 and then 2. Great, let's do it. Yeah, and actually I do get this question a lot, and it's a really tough one to answer because there's not one way to get into the industry or start your career. And that's the challenge of this, is how do I get the work? Even as someone, I mentioned kind of my entry into the industry. I was born into a family of voice actors. My dad was working on Power Rangers when I was 8 years old. They needed a kid's voice, and he's like, he's a kid, throw him in the booth. So that's how I got started. But if you ask other actors, they'll all give you a different story because there's not one way to do it. There's some things that can kind of help. Become an actor, take acting classes, get as much experience as you can doing whatever. I like to talk to my dogs and yell at people in traffic. Really, it's useful. Put together a great voice demo. A voice demo is like your business card as a voice actor. Get a great agent. An agent is the one that gets you the auditions. And after doing this for a couple decades, I still can't tell you how to book an audition. I don't know. It's like throwing darts at a dartboard blindfolded. Seriously. Especially now, because the majority of the auditions, I would say almost all of them, are done remotely. So what you receive as the actor is a script. A lot of the scripts I get describe the character that you're trying to voice, and they look like this. Boy, 16. That's it! That could sound like anything. So you're just guessing. You're like, oh, I hope boy 16 sounds like this. Sometimes they give you a picture of the character, and I look for things like facial expressions or the way the character is kind of shaped or something that I can tie and connect a voice to. Any clue that helps. Sometimes you get a Japanese reference and you can kind of take the tone and take inspiration from the seiyuu that has played that character before. But a lot of times you're just guessing. And sometimes I'll see an audition and I'll audition for it, and then I'll see who they chose, and I'm like, well, if they told me that, I could have done something similar to that, but I just didn't know. And that actor guessed right, or put something out there that resonated the right way, or that casting director knew that actor would fit into the cast in this way. So it's so difficult to book work. So I always warn people and kind of tell them, get used to the word no. If you book 1 out of 100 auditions, you're doing extremely well as a voice actor. So yeah, I tell people also, like, if you're passionate enough about wanting to do this, put yourself out there. Just start that process. Start finding your path, and I wish you a lot of luck. Yeah. Okay, we'll go 1 right here and then 2 right there. So yes. Yeah, so who's familiar with Demon Slayer? Awesome. You might not know, but the Japanese seiyuu who voices Inosuke also voices Kirito. His name is Matsuoka-san, and I've heard a lot of Matsuoka-san's voice, voicing Kirito for the last 8 years. So when I first heard him as Inosuke, I thought, he sounds very different than I've ever heard him before. I also thought, wow, Matsuoka-san's voice sounds so interesting and deep, and feral and wild, and I want to bring that energy to the role. So that's where I started. I kind of took that inspiration, and then I thought, all right, who is Inosuke? Crazy guy raised by boars, wears a boar mask and screams. So that's where I started. And then I just started playing around and kind of exploring the deeper part of my voice. But really what I did in the audition was different than what we kind of landed on and eventually went with in the show. And it wasn't until I found a couple tricks, which, sorry if you guys heard this, I mentioned yesterday also, to really help me maintain the voice, did I really discover who Inosuke was and what I needed to do to be Inosuke. So first, and this is great because I have something to help me out here. First, a vocal warm-up, which I don't normally do, was needed to voice Inosuke and maintain the voice. And the vocal warm-up is laughing like him in traffic. Trying to make eye contact with other drivers as I do it. So just like, great vocal warm-up. Highly recommend you guys do it next time you're driving. The other thing I do, and this isn't exactly what I use because this is a much sweeter version of coffee, but I get the darkest, blackest, most disgusting cup of coffee I can find, like black tar. And I'll open this up. I mentioned we get 3 beeps before we say our lines, so as the beeps are coming, I take a sip of coffee. And it's bitter, and it makes me angry, so the beeps are going, and I'm like, and that's Inosuke. So yeah, yelling in traffic and drinking dark coffee. And I just have a lot of fun with the character. When you're dubbing, you're watching the show and talking as your character is talking on screen. And most of the time, you can't see Inosuke's face and mouth, because it's under a boar head. So all I had to worry about is snout movement. I call them snout flaps. And once the speed and my voice matches those, like, I can kind of do whatever else I want. So that gives me a lot of freedom with the character to make him my own. So to take inspiration from Matsuoka-san, but then kind of put my own little twist on it. So that's what I was able to do, and I've really been having fun. I hope that it shines through as you hear the performance back. But a lot of times, like, I'll do the lines, and then immediately after, I'll just bust up laughing. And that's what I love. That's what I'm going for. So hopefully, like, when I watched Mugen Train, such a beautiful movie, so emotional, I could, like, feel the other people in the theater, like, tearing up and hear them crying. And then Inosuke would come on screen, and it would just, like, pull them back and pull them out of it. Like, I feel like he's just such a bright moment in the show and in the movie. Like, I hope that comes through, that I'm having fun with the character. And that I'm drinking a lot of coffee while I'm doing it. Yeah, so there's another question on this side. I mean, you might see the way I am. Like, I love this stuff. And burnout is a very real thing, but I haven't hit that. I think it's the coffee that's keeping me going. I feel like I'm like a boulder. Like as long as that momentum never stops, like, I'm good. And on top of recording and conventions, I have 3 children. I have a 6-year-old daughter, a 2-year-old son, and a 3-month-old daughter. So I think my wife is busier than I am. So yeah, I think that taking care of yourself is very important. And yeah, I don't exactly know where all the energy comes from, other than, like, the massive amount of coffee I drink. Yeah, I haven't hit that burnout. But a challenge is time management. And that's a skill also. You know, making sure that you're balanced. And actually, the beginning of this year, balance was my goal. And I feel like I've achieved that to some point. I found some semblance of balance in the insanity that is my schedule. But yeah, I'm still, like, it's still constantly a process. But yeah, taking care of yourself, making sure, like, you know if you're hitting that end point, or that fall off point where you get burned out. But I think another thing that's really cool about what I do is I love doing this stuff. Like, I really enjoy coming to these events and meeting people. I really love being able to step into the booth and do what I do. You know, I mentioned my dad, and the reason I really put everything into this was to carry on the torch for him. You know, I lost my dad now. It's been, 16 years, 15 years, I'm blanking on the time. And when he passed, I had the opportunity to really go for this and pursue this career in a really meaningful way. And yeah, I really do dedicate my entire career to him, to carry on the torch. And it's amazing that I was able to do that to this level, and I'm able to still do that. And another thing that's so cool that I was able to see and be a part of, my 2-year-old son was hired for his first job. So he's now 3rd generation voice actor, and he's 2. He got a much earlier start than me. And when you're working with a 2-year-old in the booth, it's super fun. So what you do is you set them down, They're in front of the screen and the mic, and because everything is done remotely now, it was at my home studio. So, he's comfortable there, and my wife was watching. I have the studio I built is really great. I'm really lucky to have put it together in this way. One wall is soundproof glass. So you get natural light. If you're standing on the outside, you can see everything happening on the inside. And then the other 3 walls are built with different mass, and there's these things called resilient channels. One thing COVID has done is it's made me learn so much about audio, and I never knew this stuff before. So inside the wall, there's this different materials of soundproofing, and then these pieces of metal that cause this air gap. And when audio waves hit the different materials, they slow down at different speeds, and different frequencies are slowed down more by different materials. And when they hit a gap of air, all that audio is dispersed and thinned out between the air, and then it hits more materials, and that's what stops it. So that air gap is really important in a booth. So the other sides are built the right way. So anyways, my son was comfortable in my house and in the booth. We've played around in there before, and I had the headphones on with the director and the engineer on the other side, telling me the lines, and I would feed the lines to him, and he would just repeat them back. And they would be a little faster, so I'd deliver them a little faster, and he'd deliver them back a little faster. So it was I got to direct him and have that experience with him, and it was so special. So that's what stops the burnout, I think. When you're doing something that you're so passionate about and that you love, it's fun, and it keeps you excited. And I mentioned how hard it is to book this work, so I do feel every time I book a job, large or small, that I've won something. And my celebration is usually playing the opening theme song on repeat 1,000 times. And just having my own little party. I still get that adrenaline every time I book a job. And I mean, I felt it this weekend. And I can't tell you what this is, but I got an email saying, hey, we've decided to cast you in this role. And it was something I did not expect to be cast as. It's something very different than the characters I typically get to play. And I just felt that same buzz and that same excitement when I saw that email. So that's why I know I'm doing what I should be doing. So it's if you find that passion and you find that excitement in the work that you're doing, it doesn't feel like work. And that's I think the best way to stop or avoid that burnout. We'll go over here. Yeah.
Back on the subject of miraculous ladybug, is it harder to tell a show like that with announcements that you're more specific to each class?
It's just different in a couple different ways. I think first off, French is closer to English. So adapting the show is still challenging, but and comparative to Japanese, right? Japanese is a very different language. So sometimes the lip flaps are very interesting, and you have to be creative or take a lot of time to really hit those moments right. Whereas for Miraculous, it already starts a little closer to English. But there's a big difference in the method of recording. So for anime, you have a script, which is now a digital script, and you go line by line or a few lines at a time. You look at your script, and you watch the screen, and you talk as your character is talking. For Miraculous, they have this thing called a rhythmo band, and this is kind of the European style of dubbing. There's this bar at the bottom of the screen, and there's a little red bar this way, vertical, and the script moves, and everyone's lines, your character's lines, are on all different levels of that band, almost like a music script. And it slides to the side, and you're supposed to say your character's lines as it passes the bar. Almost like dubbing karaoke. So that's what we use, and it's really challenging, and we play out entire scenes instead instead of just one line at a time. So they go, okay, here's scene 5. From this point to this point. Let's watch the scene. And we watch the entire thing, and then they're like, all right, let's give it a go. And we record from the beginning to the end, and they're like, yeah, that was great, let's try it again. And then they're like, okay, we kind of missed this spot, let's go pick this thing up, and then we do specific moments. So it's just a little different than the process in dubbing anime. 2 different skills in where you're looking and how you're dubbing and the way you're doing it, but I've been doing Miraculous Ladybug for quite some time now, so I'm very comfortable with both styles of recording. So yeah, just different challenges, but both I guess similar in that you're dubbing. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Okay, we'll do a few over here. Let's go 1 and then 2. Yeah. Yeah, who's seen Durarara? Awesome. If you have not, I know it came out quite a while ago, but such a great series. It's like all these different stories and then they all kind of fold together in a really interesting way. Actually, I met someone who grabbed one of my Masao Mikita prints and I was just telling her this story. I auditioned for the role back at the time when you would go into a studio to audition for stuff, which is like a luxury because you have someone that knows the show and you can look at them and see like their reaction when you start doing the voice. So I went into the studio and you get a couple different characters to read for. For some reason, my wife joined me at this day at the studio, and she never had done this and never does this, so like I was trying to like show off a little bit. I was just like, oh yeah, totally got this. What's up, guys? I'll take some sides. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna jump in there and have a good time. Like just showing off a little bit, totally feigning that like fake like confidence, which is Masao Mikita for sure. So I walked into the booth and I was just Masaomi, and I could the producer and the director, the casting director, could feel that. I think could feel that like that overly confident thing was something else down below. At that time, like I still got very nervous going into these auditions. Now I don't care. Meaning like I'm just there to have fun. Like I'm just there to enjoy myself. I can't control whether I book the part or not. I'm just gonna put out work that I'm proud of, that I'm happy with. And sometimes like in an audition, they'll ask for something and I'm like, I can't give them that. I'm just gonna try to make them laugh. And it works. It totally works sometimes because they're like a casting director will hear it and be like, what the heck? Okay, just throw this guy in the show. It totally works. So if you're enjoying this and having fun, like it comes through. So that moment, like even though I was nervous, like I was feigning this confidence, and it totally worked. So I really attribute like booking that role specifically to my wife. And I talk about her a lot, by the way. Like we've been together since high school. She's a big part of my life, a big motivating factor in the way I work and carry myself. Can't speak highly enough about her. She's out enjoying Pigeon Forge with the kids right now, having such a great time in the city. So yeah, I really attribute that role to her. And had so much fun. I mean, I get to go into work and say things like, live by the booby, die by the booby. And we came up with a new word during recording. So, you guys aren't familiar with the show. This might get you to watch it. There's a character named Henri. And Masaomi says this compliment to her. She's like standing right next to him. And he's talking to another character and talking about her. In the script, the direct translation to this line was bootylicious. And we looked at the character and we're like, not really bootylicious. She's more boobylicious. So we switched it in the studio to boobylicious. And I was doing a panel with one of the Japanese actors. And I told that story, and I asked, and this is all, the only thing I know how to say in Japanese. I said, how do you say boobylicious in Japanese? Here's the lesson for today that I'm gonna impart to you guys. And he responded, boing. You're welcome. So yeah, such great times. And the character, you know, like many of the characters in that show are so interesting and there's so much more to them. So to play like that side of him and then the other side of him was just such a great experience. And it was because of Durarara that I first went to a convention. Actually, it was Anime Expo, was my first convention on a Durarara panel, and I was on the panel with people like Crispin Freeman and Yuri Lowenthal and Steve Bloom, like legends that have done this so much. And you know, I walk on stage and there's about 2,000 people in the audience, and I'm just like, no one told me this was happening. What's going on here? But had a great time, and I was like, wow, this is so interesting. Like, I'd love to do more of this. And immediately was cast as Rin Okumura in Blue Exorcist. Yes, really want a season 3. And it was because of that show that I got invited to my first event, which was New York Comic Con. So I started there on the panel for Durarara, and then immediately invited to New York Comic Con to celebrate Blue Exorcist. So yeah, some really special shows to me. Thank you for watching and still like celebrating Durarara. And if you guys haven't seen it, highly recommend watching. So there's another one. So we'll go right here in the middle and then in the back on this side. Yes. Go for it. I mean, I'll start there. I got a question for you. Like now or like growing up? I mean, growing up, I used to love watching, and this will kind of show you how old I am. Pokemon, Sailor Moon, and Dragon Ball Z. Those were my shows growing up. I mean, pretty awesome that I got to play Red in Pokemon Origins, because I played Pokemon Red for Game Boy, put tons of hours, caught all the Pokemon in that, and was blown away when I got to play that character in Origins. Just Red catches all the Pokemon way too quickly, because there's only 4 episodes, that's all it took him. Ash is still trying to catch him. So I wish you would have slowed down a little bit. Nowadays, I don't have the bandwidth to watch a lot of shows. So I try to catch when shows are on Toonami. I try to stay up and watch those. So like, was watching Attack on Titan as it was coming out. Mentioned Sword Art. I'm fully caught up on Sword Art Online. I've watched back all of 7 Deadly Sins. So like the stuff that I've been a part of, I only see my side of the show. So I don't really get a good idea of how the show's gonna come together or what takes they're gonna use or what the other actors sound like. So it's like, enjoying those shows I've been a part of is like a whole new experience for me. So I try to watch back as much of that stuff as possible. So yeah, I don't really have the bandwidth to pick up a lot of new shows, but do you recommend anything that's out right now that I should be watching? My Hero, I'm so far behind on My Hero, and I've heard Shield Hero is really great. The new JoJo? I gotta say, so I voiced Caesar Zeppeli in season 2 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's my Family Guy inspired Italian accent. was literally watching an episode of Family Guy where Peter does a bad Italian accent where he's like, "Boop-a-da-bop-a-da-beep-a," and I did that in my audition, and they're like, "This guy!" I had a great time. I gotta say, like, I'm so happy for Kira, who voices, I think her name is Jolene in the new season. Like, I'm so genuinely happy for her, because, like, you don't pick your roles as a voice actor. You kind of like put this stuff out into the ether, you cast your net as wide as possible, and you hope like something comes back. But to say like, my dream role is this character that hasn't been animated yet, and call it like like she called it years ago. She used to cosplay as this character. Like she is so passionate about this show, and then to get that opportunity, like I saw her post and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And I think like everyone in the community like felt that. Like people were like, it's Kira Day when she announced it. Like it is the coolest thing ever to see when that happens. Like I'm so happy for her. So yeah, Jojo, I gotta check out what she's done. Can't wait to see that. But yeah, you had a two-parter. I'm sorry if I didn't fully answer your question. I mean, here's the thing about like calling your shots. Most of the time, I would say 99.9% of the time, you do not get the roles that you call. And you get, if you attach yourself to those roles, the danger of it is you'll get your heart broken. And it's impossible to last in this industry if you're like, I want that one. Nope, I want that one. Nope, I want that one. Nope, like that's what's gonna happen. So I've won the anime lotto. Like I've got all of these roles that I go, it would be a dream come true to play that role. And it's happened. I've said that about many other characters and it hasn't happened. I mean, my inbox is a graveyard, literally a graveyard of auditions. Like you see the victories very publicly because they're out there, but you don't see all of the times I've come in second place, third place, not even placed at all, like not even close, like thousands of auditions, not exaggerating. I mean, when I get home, I'll probably have 10 to 15 auditions to knock out the day I get home. That is the job. So like, are there dream roles I've auditioned for? Many. I mean, I might have mentioned like, I read for Rick and Morty. Like, I love that show. It would have been amazing to play that character. Am I right to play Morty? Probably not. Definitely not. I mean, what they've done with that show is right. You know, I've auditioned for the Joker, for Superman, for Robin, for like all these iconic roles and not been cast. So yes, many roles I've auditioned for and not been cast. The majority of auditions I am not cast for. And I tell myself, if I book 1 out of 100 auditions, I'm killing it. I'm doing amazing. So yeah, that's it comes with the territory. So my method is, when I'm auditioning for the part, I put as much as I can into it, I have a good time, and then I forget I ever auditioned. It's just like, it's like gone. Like buying a lotto ticket, you know? You might look and see if your numbers hit, but they're probably not gonna. And when they do, you're like, what? And you celebrate. All right, guys, I only have a few more minutes, so I'll try to take a couple more questions, but if you don't get your question answered, immediately after this, I'm gonna go back to my table, and I'll be there until they kick me out of the con. So let's do a few more, and I'm sorry if I missed you guys. I think you were next. Yes. Be super loud. Of course I remember Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, yes. I think the question was, Shiro doesn't make the best decisions. What do I do when I don't agree with my character's decisions?
Yeah, when you wish they would do something that would probably go better for them.
I'm glad Shiro Emiya does not take his own advice. People die when they are killed. Shiro Emiya does not believe that. Yeah, and Shiro makes terrible choices. Eren Yeager makes the worst choices. We had a running joke for Attack on Titan. Eren would be like, "Let's go kill them!" And then immediately, I would do my impression of Armin and go, "Eren, no!" So, yeah, it's one of those things, like, you don't control, it's not like choose your own journey as the actor. It's like, you're along for the ride. You need to become the character as close to it as you can, or find that reason why that character would do that. So, like, why is Shiro making that choice? What is he thinking? Why is he doing that? And those are the things that you lean on the director for. And working with a director like Tony Oliver, who's been part of the Fate universe since the beginning, is so important and so valuable. Because Tony knows all the lore and all the nuances and details of the show, and everything a character says is meaningful and changes the story and moves it along. And coming into the show in Unlimited Blade Works, there's so much that's happened before that. So I leaned on Tony a lot. And that's what I try to do, is I try to understand, like, what's the character, first, like, what does the character believe, you know? Why is Shiro making these decisions? Why is it so important for him to be a hero of justice? And what are these things happening? And then once I find that out, I try to put myself in the shoes of the character and just let honest words come out of my mouth. That's the goal. That's what I'm really trying to do, because then it's believable that character is saying those words. So if you know you're hearing those words and you're believing it's that character talking in those ways in that moment, I'm doing my job well. So that's the goal, and that's all you can kind of do. And that goes back to why I don't look forward in the manga in all the shows I'm working on. Because if I read a part of the manga and I know something that my character's not supposed to know, or I make a decision on what I'll do when I'm in that situation in the show, it might be the wrong decision. It might just be wrong. And then when I get in there and I'm working with a director that's like, here's what you're feeling and here's why, and here's what you need to do to fit into the ensemble in this way. And I've made the wrong decision. It's like, I gotta take myself out of that. I gotta reset. I gotta erase that and now try to rediscover what's correct for the moment. So it's better that just happens organically, because to get a real performance, like, it'll be real the first time I see it. So yeah, and if you guys have not seen any of Fate or Unlimited Blade Works or Heaven's Feel, I highly recommend watching it. It's beautiful. All right, I think I got time for one more question. I know there's a lot of hands left, but I'm gonna go right over here, all the way on the end, furthest to the right, on my right, so the left side. Yes, it's you, yes.
Alright, so since you played the boy Meliodas, so
Thank you. Oh, okay. So, a 7 Deadly Sins question. For you guys that don't know, I play multiple characters in the series. I play Meliodas, the Dragon Sin. I play Zeldris, his twin, who fights Meliodas. Very fun. I also play a character named Lovehelm, who's a referee in season 1 for Deanne's Hammer. Most annoying character in the show, and I'm very proud of that. So who do I relate to most in the 7 Deadly Sins? I found a lot of ways I relate to Meliodas. In his, again, his passion and love for Elizabeth. while pervy at times, has a lot of meaning and depth. And I mean, the story like around that relationship is so tragic. It's so like sad. And there's moments that when it's telling that come out in the show that were very difficult to record. So yeah, I would say Meliodas is who I relate to the most, I think, because of that kind of like deep love for Elizabeth, and it's again played in a way that's real to me. So I'll kind of leave you guys by telling one more story about Seven Deadly Sins and about Love Helm, and how I got that character and what I did around recording. So every once in a while, and this is pretty rare, you get to watch the show in Japanese before you work on it. And Seven Deadly Sins, I found it, I thought, oh, it's out there, I can check it out, and I was hooked. Like, I loved the show and binged the show, and I got to that arc with the tournament in season 1, and heard the seiyuu for Love Helm, and whenever I hear an interesting voice, I'm just kind of like drawn to it, like, and I try to emulate it, and I did, and I'm like, I kind of sound like this guy. So I was walking by the casting director and producer in the studio, and I'm like, hey, can I send you an audition for Seven Deadly Sins? And she's like, you're Meliodas, what are you talking about? And I'm like, just trust me. And she's like, I guess? So I went home, I recorded this thing, and I sent it to her, and she's like, I think we can make this work. So I record all of Meliodas, and then I get an email after, do you have time to record for Seven Deadly Sins? I'm like, oh my gosh, did I get it? And I was cast as Love Helm. So I immediately started practicing for the show, and at this time, my wife was very pregnant, and I didn't have the studio that I have now, so not soundproof at all. And I was practicing, and one of the days that I was doing this, my wife busts in and says, if you do that voice one more time, I'm having this baby now! So I stopped doing the voice at home. And I'll do a little sample so you guys know why. I don't need a microphone. I have no volume control. And now, let the fight begin! Yeah, most annoying character in the show. I love it. So I do not do that voice in my house anymore. But I was so excited to be able to do that and play off myself, and like, you know, Meliodas will say something and he'll just go, you know, make all these weird sounds, and I love it so much. So yeah, I hope when you guys watch the show or go back and rewatch it, you enjoy those moments as much as I did. Well, thank you guys so much. This was a lot of fun. I'm gonna jump back to my table. I'll be there until they kick me out of the building, hanging out, drinking more coffee. I hope you guys have had a great time at the convention, and thank you guys again. This has been really fun.